So no sooner has John Key left the hot seat, President's chair, the big boy's office, that Bill English comes out and says, Christchurch, you're getting your cathedral back. It seems to be something that is an ongoing conversation. I don't know if there is a political reason as to why John Key left first and then the announcement was made, although you could say that John Key is the master of populist politics and maybe Bill English is needing something big to kind of rip into that. I'm as popular as John Key, I'm a man of the people, and how I'm going to prove that is to give Dominic George $250 million to rebuild the cathedral.
222 million, it's a good price tag for a cathedral.
$250 million.
That's right, Pat,
the
yes.
same people who are making all these comments about we must rebuild are going to be the ones in 3 years complaining about not being able to get hip operations. And all I say is there's $250 million going into this. It's a lot of money. For
one structure that would be populated by a fraction of the people.
Yeah.
And I guess on the flip side of that, it's kind of it was sort of the focal point of Christchurch, isn't it, in a lot of ways. I know that when Christchurch was first sort of, when they started building it, it was like that was the centrepiece, and everything else kind of came, sort of spread out from that. That was like the first thing that they did. Bang, we're gonna it's cathedral. So I understand its significance and its symbolism to Christchurch, and then you look at the fact that it was felled by this earthquake that took 185 lives. So that's significant as well. But then you've got, as you say, the reality side of the situation. I do think that it is one of those things they sat around and said, like you're alluding to, Bill, you need something straight away, just before Christmas. You need to wrap something up, put a bow on it, and deliver it to the people in a populist kind of way. They would have had a list of things. They would have gone through and gone, which one should we? I think that one.
So what would have been on the list? A waterfront stadium in Auckland. That would have been on the list.
Maybe
that would have been. So the cathedral would have been on the list.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Less controversial. Than your waterfront stadium in Auckland, I think. I
know this conversation has gone on for a long time, but I do think that, we insure things for replacement value. But now we're saying there's $250 million of taxpayer money going into this one building. I agree, it's a focal point, it's a beautiful building. I've been in Christchurch about 3 times in the last 6 months. It's incredibly sad to see it. But life does go on and move on as well. I grew up in Auckland, and in Auckland, when I was growing up, the Harbour Bridge was the symbol of Auckland. And sadly, to my dismay, now, probably more so than that, the Sky Tower is.
Yeah, it is.
That grew, but things change.
Yeah, they do.
Symbols change.
I agree.
Identifiers change. It used to be sort of in Auckland, it was the museum and the Harbour Bridge, and now it's kind of the Sky Tower, and then the other things come around
And
it.
part of the history of the city is the fact that this earthquake did happen. It did occur. That is part of the history. It's part of the fabric of that city now. They can't escape the fact that it did happen, and it felled their almost founding monument, as it were. So yeah, history changes. Look, I agree with you. There's a lot of money to spend on one thing that, I'll go back to the point, it's probably used by, a lot of people will look at it, sure, but is it actually used and populated? Probably by a fraction of the population.
Well, let's bring it to Dunedin for the last 30 seconds. If there was some reason here why the train station, which is probably our equivalent,
if that was to be
if there was an accident, if a train hit it, whatever, and it was going to be $250 million to put it back to what it was now, or to build something new, as a ratepayer, do you have any idea where you'd lean now?
It's an interesting one. If they put a restaurant on the end and it fell off and took half the building with it,
like a Cobb & Co restaurant,
maybe something like that. Not sure. Which I don't think is a bad idea, by the way. Told you that the objection would flood into that. Yeah, good point.
I don't know. Exactly. When it's our thing, we might have a bit of a softer heart.
That's right. Well, it'd be interesting to see what the, I don't know if what they've done, surveys, etc., whatever, what the majority of Cantabrians think in regards to the cathedral.